good search. You know, companies used to come and pay us to do this type of searches, and they pay even 50,000 rupees just to get a search, but a refined search. So you can imagine if your review doesn't get published, you at least will have a job of doing some patent search for the company, and still it will pay you more. Okay, that's what does consultancy. Come to me afterwards, I'll tell you about this. Okay. Now, books, don't worry. Decide, now you can read research papers, you can read books. Books, why? Fundamentally, it's said that ICT students are the top in case of fundamentals and everything. Okay, come on. Really? देखो पीछे जो सो गए, सच में देखने लगे, भरोसा भी नहीं. Are you fundamentally strong in WhatsApping? Fundamentals. What are those fundamentals for? Why you want fundamentals when you go to the books and you want to read the books? Tell me. I think the last benchers can answer this. The orange shirt who is sitting there. Yes. Why do you want fundamentals being portrayed in your review if you want to? So you are an undergraduate, right? And then whoever is going to read your reviews might also be an undergraduate or a master's. So if you portray some details very fundamentally, explaining about some area, even nutraceuticals. How many people know about nutraceuticals? Not a lot. You might have an idea because we have heard about it, but it looks very similar to pharmaceuticals. Everything is suitables. But how it differs from food to pharma, if no one knows that, why don't you define it? Why don't you create like a small picture or something which suggests that this is a different area, these are the structures which are required to be there in this area. No one knows, right? That's what fundamentals I'm talking about. That's what you get from books. Be clear about what you're talking about, and if you are in the fundamentals, write very simply. I think your review has a chance to be cited more. That means people can read it more times, they will learn more about that area. Okay? Decide on the type of research topic, which is fine. Put together points. As I said, once you start reading something, you would have read 1 or 2 reviews. I showed you a few reviews. When you're reading the articles, if you have read some articles, have you read any few articles, research articles, anything? Or anything which probably goes into the research but it's not full article? How is the language? Is it like Hindi? It's all English, right? But Hindi books, papers are also there. Is it a straightforward, simple language? Or is it sometimes very hi-fi? Sometimes it's okay, in swing Yorker, samjha bhi nahi bolo. Okay. How do you want to write? Do you want to write something where your parents only, if they want to read as a first reviewer, say that, "Oye, ye kahan se seekh ke aaya?" Okay. Your friends, "Hey, kya yaar, kya bundle marta hai? Iska copy karke laya." Somewhere it should be appealing to the general audience. That's what the reviews are supposed to be. It should appeal to the general audience. So as simple and as attractive your structures, your writing is, not having too much jargons. Structures or written matter can be simplified. Try and work on that, and that requires a lot of meticulous planning. Points. So be influenced from someone. Everyone is influenced by Sachin Tendulkar, right? सचिन तेंदुलकर मालूम है? ये जनरेशन को नहीं मानते? मालूम है? सबको अच्छा लगता है? कुछ बोलते ही नहीं। और कोहली अच्छा लगता है? हाँ, जोर से बोलो। कि अभिषेक शर्मा? अभी आया बच्चा। So we have our choices. We are always influenced by someone. I'm very happy if you are influenced by some writing someone whom you might follow and seem to think that this is a great way to start. Scientifically, we all, no Americans, no Europeans, every one of us have been influenced by some writing, some way of representation, and over a period of time we have developed our way of discussions and detailing. So there is no problem. Okay, that's what the points are all about. When you read, these are the points that you are starting to write. Write the first draft. Is it so simple? So I'll just ask you a very simple question. How many months you will take to write the first draft if it's a 15-page review? 15 page. Just 15 page. Just 15. Excited ऐसे 15 बाप रे 5 पेज का रिव्यू मत लिखो. लिख सकते हो, it's up to you. But let's say 15-page review. How many weeks you will take? नहीं, ठीक से कैलकुलेट करो. आपके लेक्चर्स भी है, अब भी जस्ट डांडिया भी गया, दिवाली भी आ रहा है, सब कुछ मिला के कैलकुलेट करके कितना दिन? 1 month? That's very conservative. 15 to 20 weeks next year. Fine. Generally, if it's a big review, most of the publishers give you at least 6 months. Okay? ChemSoft review, for example, they will give you 6 months. Why? Because we have so many other things. I'm a scientist. I'm also a father. Okay? I'm a teacher. I'm a consultant. I'm a son. अरे सब कुछ घर का करना पड़ता है ना, कभी साफ सफाई भी करनी पड़ती है, कुछ नहीं है तो मेरा ऑफिस का भी करना पड़ता है. All these things taken care of, then we have to come out with the final version. So your first draft, if let's say you take 15 to 20 weeks, he said, at least in 4 to 6 weeks, a first draft, which is not a complete draft, at least something which suggests that you are making a progress, that should be written. Okay? You will have to define the timings because Bombay Technologies will also put some timelines, and then based on that you'll have to start working. तो छुट्टियां जो है ना वीकेंड की वो मिलेगी नहीं, वो आप पे है. Now, point-wise arranging the data, this is fine. Using standard tools for structure representation. If you can just close this. It's okay. You can go back. No, it's okay. You can write what is called as ChemDraw. Some of you know ChemDraw. ChemDraw, you know. So ChemDraw Professional or ChemDraw Ultra. This is a very standardized software, especially for chemistry. Even physics equations can be written. There are various other apps which are also available, specifically for physics, maths. General engineering will have these designs. Even chemical engineering will have designs. Try to use the original softwares. They will be available in our library. Otherwise, we should not talk about it outside, but you can always download the pirated software. No one, किसने सुना नहीं है, लेकिन इंडिया में piracy बहुत चलती है. If you write ChemDraw Ultra on Google, it will show up as a link, pirated one. You download it and you can use it. But there will be some features which will be away. That's okay. Unless until you start drawing your own structures, you would not be able to submit anything anywhere. The first thing which is asked any journal is what type of softwares you have used. And if you don't provide the original details or original files, you will not be able to go anywhere out. Okay? So these are certain aspects that we will be discussing later on. I'll show you if my laptop works. I'll show you exactly how the structures are, what to do. Maybe we can have a session on that. If you have a laptop later on, we'll try to have a session exactly to have very high quality structure creation. Okay? So revise and draft and everything. This is okay. Go ahead. I think this is more important. So very specific points now. What about language? Okay. Language should be kept simple and avoid complication. We have already said that. Keep it very simple. Your first draft should not be very hi-fi. If you can read it and you can make sense out of it, I think everyone else can do it. That should be your first focus. Simple, straightforward. Next point, good command on language. Now, good command, many times we will not have. That doesn't mean that you cannot write a good draft. Nowadays, Grammarly, for example, if you have it on your Word file, even with your emails, Grammarly is very helpful. It can give you specific suggestions. And we will make mistakes, especially punctuation marks. Sometimes the word here and it's here, but it's supposed to be here. All these things can happen. Not a problem. Various softwares are available. You can make use of them. That will give you a very good feeling about exactly how you're writing. And at the start itself, my way of doing things is, if I write any draft, even a sentence, within seconds I try to read it again. Because I cannot make sense out of the next sentence, the next sentence which I'm writing, unless until I am directly knowing what I've written previously. So every time you have to check. What will happen is, if there are any changes which have to be made, you will do it straight away. And your draft improves every time when you read your own writing. Much easier that way. Otherwise, you will leave it for the last, and most of the time you will not be able to get a good draft written. Okay. Next is grammatically correct. Again, same thing. When you read a sentence loudly, your grammar gets automatically corrected. If not, Grammarly is there to automatically correct. So either way. Okay. Discuss all the points well, which means the points which you have written. I want to have HPLC. So what is HPLC? What is nutraceuticals? How it is helpful? Why is it important to have a purity profile? What are the issues related? Every point which you have drafted, written, they should be written again very exclusively. You have to decide the chronological order. How do you define a chronological order of writing? What should it be based on? Anyone? What will you apply to decide that this is the perfect chronology? What should be your view?
Writing in the way we think while understanding a topic or a
kind of logic. I think we should think about from a logical point of view. What comes first? So any topic, what comes first? The main problem. The problem, let's say, is about nutraceutical, the purity of nutraceutical. So I'll first define nutraceutical, then talk about the impurities which are there, then talk about the purity problems which are there, then talk about the various instruments which are applicable for checking. Finally come to HPLC, why? This is how the chronology has to be defined, and most of the time logic of how you as a reader will read this and make a logical reasoning that probably a good path has been followed. Otherwise, someone will put HPLC first and say HPLC is excellent, works well, and then directly come on to impurity. There is a gap. And finally, you say that nutraceutical purity is important. You have completely changed the order. So it's okay if you write it and then change. You have to have that logical reasoning into you. It comes only via writing. Till now, in your exam, have you used logical reasoning? कौन है वो? किसने बोला? Logical reasoning? ये अभी डरता क्यों है? To be honest, exams in some cases are supposed to be not directly based on logical reasoning, because there is no chronology. The questions are random and your answers will come accordingly. This is what you have to change, and you probably have not done any time. And that's why it's not just for going for research, it's just for your mind as well. To align itself to learn a topic better, writing a research paper or any article would be very helpful for you. This is commonly done abroad because that's part of the undergraduate courses. something people do it without questions. Here, we have to many times define it. I'm always happy to see that there are a lot of students, but I'm hoping that this discussion is helpful for all of you.
Yes.
Is it helpful?
Yes.
At the back? Yes? If there are any questions now itself, you can ask. Is that okay? We'll not only stay for last. If you have any question on whatever we are discussing now, if you have it, you ask it now so that I can answer straight away. Is there any question right now about whatever we have discussed? If there is anything, you can ask. Otherwise, I'll go ahead. Okay. If you get more questions, write it down and we'll discuss it at the end. Okay? Now, strong characterization. Now, this is mainly for materials, what are chemicals, molecules, what you have. This is when you're publishing, not just for review, mainly for publication. Publication is a full article. This becomes again a very important part. If someone is working in your area and is reviewing this paper and comes to know the characterization what you have shown is not good, what will happen? Can they allow you to still go ahead with the paper? Because your first claim that this is my molecule, this is original, and this has these properties, that claim itself becomes false. So characterizing your molecule thoroughly, and for that, how would you do that? Maybe you don't know about it, so you need to ask professors, you need to ask those senior students that what all characterization are required, or do we have it here? See, sometimes for characterization we send students even to IIT Bombay. Sometimes we send a material to Japan and Germany. Why? Depends on the level of journals. Even if we are submitting to Nature, they'll ask more amount of data. That is something which we'll have to do. But characterization is one of the strongest points, and your science is defined by that characterization. Okay? No plagiarism. I think we have defined it's 5%. I would really suggest that if you make an attempt to write on your own, will there be any plagiarism? Again, I'm asking, if you are writing a draft on your own, will there be any plagiarism? Jor se. How many people say no? There's still a lot of reluctance. Okay, how many people say yes? Okay, how many people say might be? Okay. So now, what do you think? Is it the might be which are wrong or right? Or is it the yes who are saying is the right path? See, one thing I'll tell you. It's a simple question. If you are writing an exam paper, just remember your 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and whatever. How many times have you written that answer to make sure that you don't forget in your exam? One same answer for the same question, how many times have you written? मम्मी बोलती थी ना, अरे लिख 4 बार तो लिख एटलीस्ट, ये 5वें बार ठीक से नहीं किया था, फिर से लिख. 5 बार वही लिख रहे हैं, same sentence, same thing. How do you get plagiarism? It's there in our exams only. आपके लेक्चर के क्लासेस में जो नोट्स मिलते हैं, tell me one thing, has anyone created their own notes in their original form in that 8th, 10th, 12th standard? Completely original form? You have done it? Have you published it? You can start a class here. To be honest, it's very difficult. It's very difficult. There is an influence. And that's why someone who says might be, definitely there is a chance. Why? We love to read. We love to get influence. We love to sometimes follow. In some cases, our mind starts thinking, this sentence looks very good. Why should I change? And then, invariably, it gets replicated. It's unfortunate. But if there is someone to tell you, even in an exam, that you are not supposed to do that because we'll check the plagiarism even on that paper. Then it registers in your mind that no, I'm supposed to write originally in my own form. So don't worry about it. Your first draft will have such problems. It's only refining it. You will come to know that these are points that you need to keep in mind. Plagiarism is a big problem, and I'll show you some examples of it. Huge problem. Okay. References written in proper format, we'll discuss that when the examples come. Overall appeal is okay. Next one. These are examples now. This is exactly for you. Okay. First, this is much more important. Authorship. We have done it for some of our master students and PhD, so I think they should not answer this, but I would ask for those who are new. If there are 3 students, PhD senior who is supposed to get the project, second year PhD who is getting trained under the senior PhD and will do some work, and an undergraduate who is getting the project but not fully, maybe 10-20%. And actually the professor has given the project. At the end of the work, the professor reviews the work which has been completed and decides to go for a publication. He writes his name for sure, professor nahi rahega to kaun rahega, and only the first 2 PhDs, not the project student. Is it okay? Depends on whom.
How much they have contributed?
I said that 10-20% at least, let's say, but neglected.
Then it depends on professor.
Oh, professor is supreme. Do you agree? Do you agree? How many people don't agree? You are talking in front of Professor Kapdi. And how many people say yes, Professor Kapdi or professor has the full right? Okay, that number is less. To be honest, the ethical guidelines suggest, and ethical guidelines are also followed by Bombay Technologies. There is what is called as credit system now. Every journal follows that credit system, which means conceptualization. What is conceptualization? The concept itself. What is it? Why do you want to do it? The concept of writing that, working on that project, that up till execution, there are around 10 various questions which have to be graded for every author which is part of that paper. So if you are saying that someone has done the characterization, someone has done the conceptualization, someone has done the execution, but material synthesis and probable upscaling was done by the undergraduate, and he or she has been left out. How did you create the material then? And the data gets registered on the lab journal. So in such a case, the student has the right to come back and say, I'm supposed to be part of this paper. Okay. If there is another example, senior PhD works and is not getting registered for some reason, some new PhD comes, the data gets completely transferred to the new PhD, paper gets published in the name of the new PhD, while the senior PhD is left on their own. Is it ethical? So the professor is supreme, right? Is it right? It's completely unethical. Who created the data? Almost everything was done by the senior PhD. These are examples which happen in many institutes around India, and I've seen even around the world. And that's something which you all need to know, because it can happen to you. But that's what is called as authorship. And you, as a student, if you are collaborating with someone, not for the fact, okay, 2 students are there, one student writes completely, but the other student is very supportive. घर रहने के लिए भी दिया, खाना भी दिया, okay, चाहे तो कपड़े भी दे दिए, चलो, okay, and then at the end when you are submitting to Bombay Technologies, comes back to the first student and say, मेरा नाम क्यों नहीं डाला? Is it good? Can that person for giving food, ghar, khana, pina, do you think that the student should get acknowledgement or on the paper? Yes, anyone? कोई तो yes बोला है. Yes, yes. फूड के लिए, घर के लिए, अरे फिर पापा मम्मी को क्यों नहीं? बेचारे उन्होंने तो पूरा 10-20 पल्स तो उन्होंने किया. You are agreeing, right? Parents should be the first then. यहाँ पे वो पेरेंट हो गया मेरा, उन्होंने खाना पीना दिया, लेकिन पेरेंट्स. But for what? So I am talking from a scientific perspective. On a scientific perspective, has that person contributed to become acknowledged on a paper? Food is scientific in a way, but huh? No, I'm not even saying 10-20%. Food का percentage मैं नहीं लिख रहा हूँ. I'm saying food, house, and let's say कपड़े. No, you have changed your mind. Confirm? Anyone here who has sympathy to the second fellow? अरे sympathy भी नहीं दिखाते हो. चल खाना पीना दिया. To be honest, no, not at all. Which means, if I go to Munna canteen and I'm very good friend with that person and वो खिलाता है बेचारा मुझे, वो भी आ जाएगा. है कि नहीं? लेकिन अच्छा है वो. बहुत लोगों का पेट भरता है वो. This is how you have to understand. It should be scientific contribution, something which enriched the quality of your paper. Then only first acknowledgement, if it's 5% or 10%, whatever you define, or if it is higher, should be an equal author. It should come to as a second author if you are the first author and a corresponding author, but you need to acknowledge that person properly. नहीं तो क्या होगा? हमारे तो questions भी है. आगे जाके अगर हमारे पास कोई आया and editor in chief is emailed that I helped this person, I wrote this part and he has not acknowledged me, the paper gets retracted. So don't do that. Okay? Yes, please.
Sir, how much percentage the UG student need to be perform or contribute in order to get the acknowledgement?
See, on a scientific level, to be honest, if there are few reactions as well, if you do in your lab journal, which are defined as important for a paper to be published, you should be there. What level? That is no question, because you could be the last author. If there are 10 authors and you are the last, doesn't matter. But if your work contributes effectively for getting a publication, then you are supposed to be there. And this question guidelines are generally defined by the professor. They will ask everyone that what is the, get me the book, let's see the contributions, and based on that it is done. If it doesn't happen that way, the UG student or whoever that is has the right to go ahead and say that at least you need to see what my contributions are. But many times you will come across one question that you are an undergraduate student, you are here only to learn. Why are you getting a publication? What's the requirement? इंडिया में ये पूछा जाता है, ऐसा कहीं पे नहीं पूछेगा. Because outside the criteria are so stringent that if that UG student goes to the vice chancellor of that university, professor का job भी जा सकता है on ethical ground. This is how serious it is, but India में वो कभी-कभी follow नहीं होता है. कभी-कभी, sorry, ज़्यादा ही होता है. हाँ, you had a question there.
You said something about credit, like
Yes.
like senior PhD है, मास्टर्स हो रहे हैं, तो वो अपने वाली क्रेडिट के हिसाब से मतलब परसेंटेज डिवाइड, what was that?
See, we will be submitting a document to you. Their credits have been defined into around 10 different criteria. As I said, conceptualization, data mining, detailing, characterization, everything you will assign to someone, right? If you say data conceptualization, you will say professor. Paper writing, you will say senior PhD. Paper checking, professor again. Data characterization, probably the second year PhD student. Maybe collection of data or scale up, undergraduate. Every detail, there are around 10 guidelines, points. You have to assign accordingly in front of the that author, stating that this author has done this much. Based on that, it automatically gets decided that okay, if you have done maximum, you are the first author, and accordingly others. So those details also we have put. That credit part, we have it in the guideline. We'll share it with you. Okay. Now, if you look at title, something has been said, catchy with keywords that are easy to find on search engines. Okay. So I've given two titles. The first one, if you read, two-dimensional semiconducting boron monolayers. A short one. Okay. Two-dimensional, maybe because everyone was working on one-dimensional, so they defined it as two-dimensional. Some novelty has come. Semiconducting boron monolayers. Define it as